onions because in Egypt they ate onions. In the time of slavery, onions were the main food. That's why sometimes we use the expression, "Don't keep crying over the onions of Egypt," isn't it? You must have heard that expression when someone advises you to stop lamenting the past. What is lamenting the onions of Egypt? It's saying, "Oh, I was a slave, but I had this food, I had onions to eat, and now I'm free, but I have nothing." Hold on. Give the desert time. Let the desert tell you what it needs to say. Even hunger, restriction, is very important in the human process. We identify all the time that people are spoiled because they lacked nothing. It's terrible when you have a child who has been pampered since childhood, lacked absolutely nothing, and suddenly, in the open field of life, suddenly that person needs to face life's desert, and they don't have enough ammunition to handle it. What do? How do we face the desert? At that moment, when Moses took the people out of slavery and encouraged himself to lead this people through the desert towards the promised land, he also felt fear. He also didn't know what it would be like. That's why, throughout the manifestations of God in that moment of Moses' life, he communicates with God. They are epiphanies, which are these glorious manifestations of God there through simple reality. It's the burning bush, it's the stone that gushes water. Anyway, God talks to Moses, gives him signs that he is on the right path, but doesn't shield him from the unprotectedness that the desert causes him. So unprotected in that desert, materially speaking, he can establish a trust in God that no other comfort had given. You see how interesting it is? How the unprotectedness, the apparent unprotectedness, has a whole reserved care. And behind the scenes there, just like you, who are a father, a mother, create a restriction for your child so that they can mature, isn't it? Sometimes you take something away from your child so that they really feel the lack, so that later they can appreciate it. I repeat, many people go wrong in life because they lacked nothing. Then you notice that when there is too much lack, it can also cause an imbalance, a lack of trust in life, in people. Anyway, it's balance that works. When you start educating by providing protection and apparent unprotectedness, where that person will have to face the situation alone, even if you're watching from afar. I faced extremely difficult situations in my life, where it wasn't enough for the other to say, "I'm here." Why? Because they were mine. Even help. Looking to the side, knowing that you have a friend with you, that there is a mother, a father, a brother. But in many moments of our lives, this ordeal is to be lived in solitude. It's when I need to experience this feeling of being unprotected. Just like Moses experienced stepping on the discomforts of the desert. By facing those discomforts, he understood what the human condition is. So I also make this experience. You do. I don't want to spend my life in blissful clouds. I really don't. And that's why, since I was very young, when life was difficult for me, I found something in that discomfort that made me think higher, that made me think beyond. Moses, experiencing the discomfort of the desert, needed to convince those who were with him that that discomfort would be worth it. Oh, but some wanted to go back to slavery. Look how human weakness is very present in our lives at times of discomfort. How many people, let me give you a simple example so you understand. There are people who need to break up with relationships that are terrible, disastrous. That person only brings harm to you, you know that. But you have a bond with them, you have an emotional need, you can't break up with that relationship. So, suddenly you encourage yourself, everything becomes clear to you. This person doesn't do me good. I can't marry this person because if in the time of dating, it's already like this, imagine in my marriage, later in my married life, it will become an even worse hell than it already is. Then you encourage yourself. You're motivated by people around you to break up. Then it's terrible on the day you break up. The suffering is cruel inside you. It seems like you'll never recover, that you only think about that person. Why? Because despite them causing you so much harm, you have a sick little bond with them of emotional dependency. You know they harm you, but you don't know how to live without them. Then you start taking steps. The first week is horrible. You suffer, you cry, you can't listen to the music, you can't smell, you can't see that little thing that they forgot there at your house. All of that is terrible. But suddenly you start taking steps towards liberation. It's as if you were walking towards a place that will only do you good. And a month later, that suffering gets better. 2 months later, that suffering gets better. And suddenly you're not even remembering anymore. Of course, there's still a silent bond there, being dismantled, because emotional dependency, it doesn't die overnight. It's like suffering. We continue tomorrow in the next video. Complete conference links in the description.